you're the deciding vote.
Well, that's
You
it.
are.
This is it. Well, good. Well, what I want to do is answer any questions that you guys have. We are doing this all over the state. We've had groups of 5 up to 500, and we're hitting 7 events a day. And the whole idea is that I think you've got to take your case directly to people so that you go beyond the flyers, beyond the ads, and everything else. Now, the big issue right now is that Donald Trump endorsed my opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, which was pretty wild considering that I've been with the president since he came down the escalator. I was with him publicly on TV, had a show on Fox 29 in Philly, Fox 5 in New York. I had the #1 radio station. I was 1.5 million listeners on 101.5 in the morning, every morning, and I've been with him. Now, here's the thing. I was not surprised. Most people were. The reason is that I was in Bedminster with the president about 5 weeks ago, right before he made the decision. And we spent a solid half hour, 40 minutes, talking about the race. And at that time, he said he wasn't thinking he was going to get involved. However, he was slightly annoyed at me. Now, when you're with somebody and you support them, every once in a while you have some disagreements. And he brought up the disagreements that I had with him publicly, because he came on the air a couple of times with me, and he was annoyed. He's like, how come you disagree with me? I said, Mr. President, I was up front with you. You and I had this conversation publicly, and I'll tell you what it was. I thought he should have fired Fauci. I don't know if any of you agree with that, but I thought he should have fired Fauci. I said, the other thing is, I think you should have mobilized the National Guard to shut down Black Lives Matter and Antifa when they were burning down police precincts and people were dying, right? He didn't like that. So Donald Trump wanted someone who was going to be in lockstep. This is Jody, my wife.
Hi,
Married 30 years, and she's from Rhode Island, and I'm from Jersey originally. But 30 years, and our goal in this whole campaign is to be grandparents in New Jersey. Right now, my daughter and our son-in-law live in London, and our son just graduated from San Diego State.
And our
is
daughter
California.
was born in Cape May Courthouse.
She was born when that was Burdett Tomlin.
Yeah.
The old days, right? Burdett Tomlin. I don't know if it's any better now than it was then, but anyway, she was born there. So, right, I know, we hear it, right?
It's better.
It's better now, right?
Yeah, Cooper took it over.
So technically we're locals. We lived in Seattle when we first got married. We lived in DC and then moved to Seattle. Anyway, so what the president clearly wanted is someone to say, don't get in my way. If I say it, you're going to agree and do it. And it became very evident after he made the endorsement that 2 things happened. The White House lifted the halt on Empire Wind Company to start construction on the windmills off the coast of Staten Island. Now, it's a New York company, but it's going to impact the Jersey Shore just as much as one that was going to be right over here. Not a word out of Jack on that. I stood up and I challenged the president again, and I said, look, I'm a big supporter of yours, but this should not stand. You have to halt this wind project. You went through all the campaign, got Jeff Van Drew to write an executive order, but it didn't include the projects that were already greenlit. So that's a challenge, and I think if you are nominating someone to lead the party and electing a governor of the state, you have to have the courage and the guts and the knowledge to stand up to even the guy that you voted for 6 times, 3 primaries and 3 generals. So that was #1. And then #2, the tariffs. I challenged him on the tariffs. Generally speaking, I love sticking it to China. I mean, they are our enemy, no doubt about it. We have lost manufacturing jobs. I'll give you an example. New Jersey only has 200,000 manufacturing jobs left out of 1.9 million private sector jobs, only 200,000 manufacturing. My goal as governor first 3 years is to double that number. And yes, I have a detailed plan on how to do it. Problem with the tariffs, even though it will help us build those manufacturing jobs, dozens of companies employing thousands of people across New Jersey have products that are sitting at the Port of Newark that they cannot take possession of because the tax will be more than the value of the goods that are in the container. So they're already out $100,000. They're going to be out another 120, 130,000. So we have millions of dollars in products that can't be resold by the companies that bought the products wholesale. So my objection and what I said to the president was, I think you should have rolled this out over 3 or 4 months. The Chinese knew what you were going to do. You could have negotiated with them by saying this is coming, but exempt all of the products that were already shipped. Because that's not hurting China, that's hurting America. So I didn't get the endorsement. I did not apologize. I didn't back down. I still support President Trump. I'm the only one who's had a lengthy conversation, both in person, by email, and on the radio with Tom Homan about what we're going to do about the illegal immigration crisis. It is a crisis. 900,000 illegals are in New Jersey right now. That was all because Phil Murphy opened up the floodgates. I made a commitment to Tom Homan and the president and the people that I used to talk to every day, 4 hours a day in the morning, that on day one, I'm going to declare a state of emergency. I'm going to suspend and rescind the 2019 Immigrant Trust Directive. We're going to end the sanctuary state, and we're going to reset the clock. And I'm going to be there with Tom Homan and enforcement and removal operations. And we're going to start in Patterson. We're going to move to Newark, then Irvington, then Edison. There are tens of thousands of criminal aliens that are living among us. The challenge is, first distinction between me and my opponent, there are a lot, and I'll get to all of them. Jack Ciattarelli still supports to this day licenses for illegals. Now, licenses for illegals have two problems. The way they justify it is they say, well, it makes our roads safer. Really? Because I have a lot of teen drivers that I see have a license that have not made our roads any safer. The license doesn't mean you're a good driver. The challenge is, number one, you go to motor vehicles and get a license, they give you a voter registration form. So it leads to illegals voting. The second thing it does is it floods our roads with uninsured motorists. Your insurance costs right now are through the roof. Car insurance in New Jersey is among the most expensive in the country. We pay $6,100 for our car insurance. $6,100 a year. It's unbelievable. I haven't had a ticket in like 2 months. So, but on a serious note, that's too much, right? If you've got one, you're paying $2,000 a year on one car, $4,000 on two, $6,000. It's madness. The problem is that no one has addressed the issue that is the underlying cause. Illegals having licenses is number one. Overregulation of the Department of Banking and Insurance is number two. Most people don't understand this detail because the politicians don't want you to know it. My opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, has been in politics for 40 years. He served in the legislature for the better part of a decade. Now he's telling us he's going to lower taxes. When he was in the legislature and voting on this, he voted to raise the income tax, voted to raise the sales tax, voted to raise the gas tax, supported and voted for your tax dollars to go to subsidize illegals to get in-state tuition at our colleges. So you think about that. So he's working against us, and I called him out at all three debates, saying, how are you, with a straight face, saying you're going to lower taxes as governor when you had almost a decade in the legislature and you voted and supported the Democrats, all of their tax hikes. Now you're telling us what you want voters to hear, which is exactly what he did with the President of the United States. He hated Trump, still does, for 8 solid years. On a Fox News interview, we were both interviewed yesterday on Fox News, he lied. He sat there and told the Fox News reporter, because the Fox News reporter said, how's it feel to get the Trump endorsement? He said, well, I supported him in 2020 and I wanted him to come into the state and help me in 2021. I'm happy he's helping me now. Total lie. In 2021, he publicly stated, I do not want Donald Trump in this state while I'm running for governor. I'll win my own election. So we had a little fun today putting those two clips side by side. So that just to continue to outline the differences. Now for me, this comes down to 3 issues. And let me first talk about experience. I served in the Marine Corps. As I said, we've been married 30 years, 2 great kids, great son-in-law. I've started businesses. I started and still own, and we're still making films. Film company. We make films for Lifetime TV and Lifetime Movie Network. We have our first horror film on Tubi, which is available streaming right now, if you're interested. But I've run businesses. I spent almost 30 years in the private sector, 14 years working for Jim Weichert. And that was, I joined the company. I don't know if you know Weichert Realtors. They're in the area, not as big here as they are in North Jersey, but I started with Jim a long time ago, spent 14 years. When I joined the company, we had 170 offices. When I left the company, we had almost 600. So I've managed the millions of dollars, I've managed the thousands of sales agents, and that's an experience in business when you have to actually manage a P&L and come under budget every year that we have not had in Trenton, honestly, in 30 years. We've had no business people. Jack says he's a business guy. The reality is he was a shill for Big Pharma. That's how he made his money. He ended up owning a publishing company that apologized for and defended Big Pharma at the height of the opioid epidemic, where we had children dying because of the overdoses and the prescriptions they were taking, moving into heroin. This guy sold that company for about $7 million. That's where he made his money. He also invested in, and Fox News thankfully called him out on it, he was heavily invested in Chinese communist companies who were buying American farmland. Now, none of this ever comes up on the debates. Let me tell you what does come up in the mailers you get, in the ads that you see. What comes up are 20-second clips from my TV shows and my radio shows. One in particular which said, I think there ought to be a pathway to citizenship. You know what? I said that. That wasn't AI. What Jack cut out of that half-hour show was the question I was asked. The question I was asked was, Bill, what do you think? And remember, this is 2018. Trump was in the White House. The border was near secure. It was a very different mindset. And I was asked the question, hey, our legal system is broken. If you've got a guy that came here legally on a visa and he's been here 20 years, but the visa expired, he's unable to navigate through the system to get the visa renewed, he's got a wife and 2 kids in the school, and he owns a house, and he works at a nice job, and he pays his taxes, and he has no criminal record, should he be allowed to stay? And I said, well, I'm a little more liberal on this one, and yes, I think you ought to have a pathway to citizenship. You know who agrees with that?
That was a gotcha question.
Gotcha question.
That was a gotcha.
Because if I take it, if I take just my saying pathway,
They set
I
that
sound like a
question
liberal.
up so you would
Of course.
say that answer.
Right.
That's exactly.
So now he's got that, but what was so disingenuous is Jack took that clip 7 years ago, put it next to Trump in the last few months, and said, oh, Spadea hates Trump. It's really nuts when you think about it. So that's the business. Now, they only have 3 clips. They also accused me of not supporting Trump after January 6th. Totally untrue. As a matter of fact, I was the only one that supported him after January 6th. I wrote an article on January 6th saying, this doesn't add up. What the news is telling us is definitely not true. We knew a lot of people who were there.
Wait a minute. We're January 6ers.
Jack thinks you ought to be in jail. It is that
Wait a
simple.
minute. Don't even get
Jack,
this. I came here to ask you the specific questions.
Jack attacked. I supported publicly all pardons that the president made, and I got hammered by Jack, by John Bramnick. They're like, how do you know they weren't? Some of them could have been the violent. I'm like,
Oh my
they're
God.
political prisoners, and that to me is a defining issue. You are either
I would love to sit
buying-
and tell you exactly what happened January
Yeah.
6th because we were there.
The Fed set
There's
it up.
more to it than you know. And
Oh, I
there's more
believe
things
it.
were done that day than you have any clue about.
Well, remember when the Capitol Police opened the gates? Hey,
There was
come
more.
on.
It was worse than that. It was worse than that.
When they started the tear gas before anybody did anything?
It was an attack by soccer moms and
Yeah,
regular people.
that's what it was.
Do I look
With
like
no
a mom?
firearm. With not a
Attack of the
single
MAGA
firearm.
moms.
Trying to overthrow the
That's
government.
right.
It's
Nope.
insane.
Yeah.
Insane. I can promise you, I am the only candidate, not only that agrees with you, but has the guts to talk about it.
What Como and Murphy did, I am an essential employee. I can't want to say where I work. But Murphy and Como, they silenced us. How many interviews you ever done with a January 6th?
Oh, on my show?
How many?
Oh, and I opened it up to the phone lines. I used to have families
they
calling
shut
my
us
show
down.
to talk about their families. So remember, I've been attacked. Jack will say, oh, he's just a radio guy. Well, he forgets that I had a 25-year career in business. I'm 56 years old. I've been in radio only 10 years. So I did something before I was 46. Just saying, right? So it's a silly argument, but what's important is that my private sector career leading up to being in the media, and I left my private sector career to go into on Fox. I met a producer and I launched a show called Chasing News, very successful, 7-year run on Fox, Philly, New York, North Jersey. And then I got into the radio, and the radio I loved. It was fantastic. Last 10 years, it was hard to walk away, but this was the right thing to do. But the difference is I used the power of the microphone. Remember, I had more than 1 million people tuning in. So unlike Jack, who sat there taking the crumbs off the Democrats' table as a member of the legislature, I used the power of the radio to force issues. We got the Democrats in the legislature to actually call Governor Murphy and slow the roll of that sex curriculum because they knew it wasn't age appropriate. How did that happen? I flooded a couple of legislators' inboxes with 60,000 emails. They couldn't get their legislative
I
job
was
done.
listening to you when you did that.
Right. We did it with the phone lines too. So we were able to break the logjam on unemployment because I lit up the switchboard and we shut down business at the State House. So the point is that am an authentic person who's looking at Jack Citarelli, and I'm going to be very frank. I love the radio. I'm unemployed right now. This was a big, big walk away from a very, very successful media career that was only going in the right direction. Why did I do it? Because we talked about it. I could have retired in 5 years, had a show on Newsmax, all lined up to the point where they built a studio in my house. Talk about an easy gig. Go to the radio, I get up early anyway, I was in the Marine Corps, and then tape a show in my house, and I'm out relaxing by 3 o'clock, or maybe I'm on the golf course. However, we said if I retire in 5 years, can I really afford to stay, and should we afford to stay in New Jersey when I've got kids that hopefully, God willing, want to have kids? I'm like, you're not coming into Jersey as a first-time home buyer now. Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs that for the kids who want to turn a wrench? Where am I really in good conscience going to say that my grandkids should grow up in a state where the schools teach you that you were born in the wrong body? Or that because dad's driving an SUV, we're going to be underwater? You see what the DEP has done. One study from Rutgers talking about the great flood that's coming in 12 years and we're all going to be extinct caused them to change the rules on construction where all these homes have to be raised by 5 feet. Now you try to figure out, let me tell you, we watched these crazy environmentalists ruin Northwest New Jersey with something called the Highlands Act. The Highlands Act effectively eliminated the value of everybody's property because you couldn't so much as put a deck on your house without jumping through crazy hoops, and it would be cost prohibitive. They're doing the same thing in the Pinelands. They're doing the same thing to the Jersey Shore.
Other
That's
states
why.
as well, right?
What's that?
Other states as well. Sorry, not to interrupt, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Obama buying property at Martha's Vineyard where they say 10 years ago it's all going to flood. In
They're
20
all
years.
liars.
They're all
Obama's a
That's right.
liar.
Absolutely.
And he's been in charge of this country until Donald Trump won. So make no mistake, I'm a Trump guy. I was annoyed and disappointed when he endorsed Jack because every one of us could look at this and say, wait a minute, Citarelli, anybody, if you voted for Citarelli in 2021, which many of you may have done because Murphy
Because
was
we
a
didn't want
horror
Murphy.
show. Yeah, you're like,
We didn't
Murphy's
have
a horror
what
show.
choices did we have?
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Jack Citarelli not only refused to want Donald Trump in, but disrespected him to the point of saying that he's a charlatan, he's not welcome in the state, he's an embarrassment to the country, shouldn't be president. I've never said that. What I've said is, look, I like you, I support you, I voted for you. However, you need to rethink these policies because it's hurting us. The fact that President Trump did not come down hard on Empire and stop that project is absolutely outrageous. And I was asked this question yesterday, I was on the radio. They said, what are you going to do about it? I said, I'm not afraid to sue the administration if I have to. I'm not owned by any of these interests. And I don't try to curry favor with anyone. You know, I served my country, I fought my own company when it came to the COVID vax. I refused to take it. I refused to wear a mask and I refused to stay socially distant. So good for you. So I fought them. Town Square Media, the public company that owned our station, they were going to implement a vaccine mask and I said, or a vaccine mandate, and I said, you can find another morning guy. Now, it turns out I'm half their revenue. So they backed down. And we were one of the only public media companies not to have any protocols, masks or vaccines. Why? Because they could not physically afford to lose me in the morning. And, yeah.
We worked, my wife and I worked for Donald Trump,
Yeah.
and I've got lung cancer from being on a submarine. I'm a disabled vet,
Wow.
and it
I'll
sucks.
pray for you. That sucks. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, the asbestos on the submarines.
Yeah. Think about how many things government didn't tell us.
Yeah,
Well, we're going to pray for you. How you feeling?
I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. When did you get the diagnosis?
How long ago?
26th November.
Yeah,
So you're fighting hard.
yeah, trying.
Yeah. But you think about it. Think about the guys that got lung cancer and emphysema and other respiratory illnesses because they worked on the pile after 9/11.
Yeah.
When George W. Bush and our former governor, Christine Whitman, who was the EPA director, said, don't worry, everything's safe. Oh, really? Everything's safe? Thousands, guys. Thousands.
Yeah.
They lie to you. Government lies. The reason they lie, it's in their interest to lie.
Yeah.
Because they're all connected insiders. Think about Jack Citarelli for a minute. Excuse me. Here's a guy, he voted so that men could change their birth certificates to women. Voted for it. Was one of the only Republicans that voted for it. Didn't have to vote for it. Why did he vote for it? Because he believes it. Because he is afraid to upset someone and be called a transphobe. Meanwhile, flip the card, I'm on the air 10 years on the radio saying there's no such thing as a trans kid. Why? Because there isn't. There isn't. It's not a real thing. There's gender dysphoria, there's mental illness, there's kids that act out. Yeah, there's all those things, but we're not doing anything to help them. They call gender affirming care. That's what they call it. They put this Orwellian label on it, which is to force a kid into a transition. It's really horrific and barbaric. It's like Frankenstein level stuff. What gender affirming care should be is, we're gonna sit with this child, we're gonna pray for him, and we're gonna get him the right mental health help that he needs, so that he recognizes you cannot go from being a boy to a girl. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. DNA doesn't work that way. So the point is that we've got a guy who is worse than the Democrats. But you didn't know that last time because everyone was so desperate to get rid of Murphy that nobody really looked into Jack's record. But he supported the lockdowns.
I told you.
He supported the masks, and I called him out on the debate stage the other day. And I said, we had teachers, nurses, and cops and firefighters having to test for COVID twice a week.
Yes.
We now know.
Double mask. No, double mask.
Double mask.
And we had to wear the clear
So
one
now
in
we
front of the
know
face.
the masks were not just useless; they were harmful.
Yeah.
They were harmful because of all the CO2 buildup as you were
Your
exhaling.
immune system got
Right.
worse.
Second thing is, we know the jab didn't work. If anything, the jab was poison. Myocarditis, respiratory issues, cancer, all this turbo cancer we're hearing about. All real, all happening. So what he said, I couldn't believe he said it publicly, but he said it over and over again. He said Murphy really didn't have a vaccine mandate. Jack Citarelli said this because you could test instead of taking the vax. Now, who knows what they were shoving up your nose? Who knows what was going on? I can tell you this, Kary Mullis, I don't know if you know his name, he is the man who won a Nobel Prize for inventing the PCR test. But when Kary Mullis invented the PCR test, it wasn't a test. It was a manufacturing duplication process used in science and biology and chemistry. It was never intended to be a test. How do I know that? Because he publicly fought, guess who? Dr. Fauci in the 90s when Fauci was using the same test to declare people HIV positive with no symptoms. Where have we heard that before? You're sick, you just aren't showing any symptoms. That's insanity is what that is. But that's how they use it. So the test you were even taking was not accurate. It should have never been used as a test for illness according to the guy who invented the test. But he died in 2019, that summer.
Under mysterious
Anyway.
circumstances.
Right. Just saying. So the point is this, that let's get into the practical of today. You got a choice. You've got, and Bramnick is not really a choice. John Bramnick is a trial attorney, ambulance chasing lawyer who's lined his own pocket because he runs a trial attorney law firm and he has sponsored legislation that has actually increased his fees as a lawyer. So he's gross, but he's only at 1 or 2%, so he's not a factor.
Yeah.
This race is between me and Jack. And Trump made a mistake. Trump endorsed a guy based on an internal poll that showed him 20 points up that was paid for by Jack's campaign.
Just told you that.
I mean, okay, I could have been 80 points down. Does it really matter? So he checked the box, but I don't know if you joined the teletown hall last night, but we've been laughing all day about it. Trump does a town hall. He comes on for 3 minutes last night. And you ever been to, I'm sure you have, you've been to a Catholic funeral mass. When the priest is up there, you know immediately that he has no idea who the guy in the box is. That's what that town hall sounded like. Trump was reading off a card that was undoubtedly written by an intern. And the point is, now they're desperate. Actually, Trump turned to him, the way he signed off last night on the call was, all right, Jack, that's as much as I can do. You're gonna just have to go do this yourself. So the point is, that we know we have real momentum, or I wouldn't be here in front of you. But I will be very honest with you. Monday night, 2 weeks ago, I get the call. So Bill Stepien is our general consultant and general strategist. So he ran both of Trump's campaigns, 16 and 20. So in my opinion, he won twice, but that's another story. That's for another day. So he calls me. I'm 5 minutes out. I'm pulling into a parking lot. I'm about to walk in and give a speech. We have a couple hundred people waiting in this restaurant. And he's like, and I'm thinking, it's Bill Stepien. He knows I'm walking into a speech. It must be something serious. So he said, all right, just want to let you know, Trump just endorsed Jack. I'm like, okay, let me take 5 minutes and just wrap my head around that. Walk in, I give the speech, and I go home. I get home around 11 o'clock that night, and at that moment, I'm thinking, this is definitely bad news, that Trump just endorsed the Trump hater, where the expectation was that I should have gotten that, or he would have stayed out of it. So I go to bed that night, I go to 5 o'clock in the morning, and which is nice, because that's sleeping in, because on the radio, I got up at 3:30. So here it is, 5 o'clock, I get up, my phone has completely blown up. 800 text messages from donors, supporters, business owners, former listeners, people saying, don't go anywhere, Trump made a mistake. Then we saw all of our posts, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, completely blown up, tens of thousands of people responding, Truth Social, thousands and thousands, on the Trump endorsement post saying, what are you thinking, Mr. President? This guy's a Trump hater. He's not with us. He's anti-medical freedom. He's anti-gun. He's pro-abortion. He wants to fund Planned Parenthood. He supports illegals. What are you doing? So it was 99-1. But then a funny thing happened. Tuesday and Wednesday, and it carried through all week, we had our biggest low-dollar fundraising days that we've had in a year of campaigning. So people rose up. There's a groundswell of people and an energy out there because they know the truth. Jack is a political insider who supports the trans cult, who supports bail reform. He supports the Christie era attack and contract pushback on the cops. This guy is Chris Christie 2.0, and I'm not going to let him get anywhere near the nomination, let alone the governor's office. That's why I'm running, because somebody has to have the experience, the intelligence, and the courage to stand up to this backroom cabal, because we have to lower our insurance costs, we have to lower our energy costs, we have to reduce our real estate taxes. The only way to do that is to have a comprehensive plan to lower the cost of education. We've got to end bail reform, end the sanctuary state, start enforcing federal detainer orders, and hire more cops. The only way we do that is declare a state of emergency on public safety and suspend bail reform on day one. I'm the only one that has talked about having the guts to do it. As a matter of fact, I've already written 30 of the 100 executive orders that we're going to roll out in my first 100 days. The first 5 deal with high density housing. We are ruining some of our beautiful communities because they are shoving these high density housing units in. You're expected to pay for the added cost of school, the added cost of cops, streets, water infrastructure, energy costs, all of it. So there's a plan to restore public safety. There's a plan to restore accountability to government. We're going to lower the budget. First year budget right now, $58.2 billion. I'm going to submit a budget in February 2026 that cuts $10 billion out of that. It's the only way to do it. No Republican, no Democrat talks about this. Nobody has a plan. No one understands the mechanics under the hood. But I've been listening and working on this for the better part of the last 12 years. Now it's time to reset the party, take it from these guys in the back room, and say we need new blood. Our biggest thrust of our campaign has been, if you are a regular Republican that is voting in every election, we know we can do better for you. But more importantly, if you're an unaffiliated voter that never votes in a primary because you think you shouldn't vote, you wait till November, you are the movement. Most of Trump's voters, the only reason he came within 5 points, it's not Scott Pressler, it's certainly not the NJGOP, certainly not Jack, is because independent voters, unaffiliated voters, surged to President Trump. And that's why he came within 5 points. And if Jack Ciattarelli, with his support of driver's licenses for illegals, didn't get his way, he may have come even closer, because we have no idea how many of those licensed illegals actually voted in the election. So I'll stop it there and I'll take any questions you have. Yes, ma'am.
I want to know, what is the exact status today of this business with these windmills? Are they done? Are they?
They're not done.
I
There-
want to
there-
know exactly
so-
where does it stand?
The president halted future projects through an executive order that Jeff Van Drew wrote. That's a good thing. What was not halted were the projects, including Empire, which is off the coast of Staten Island, but close enough to the Jersey Shore to have an impact, because they were already underway. So we will have to get in the driver's seat in the governor's office, work with the federal government, the governor of New York, and these companies to stop this from happening. The good news is Empire most likely will not be laying any pipes across the Jersey Shore and declaring eminent domain, but it's not dead until we throw out Governor Murphy's electric vehicle mandate. It's not dead until we throw out Governor Murphy's his energy master plan. And here's the reason: we don't produce enough energy in New Jersey.
No.
We use 17,000 megawatts of electricity on our top day when every one of these hotels is blasting the air, you're blasting at home, you're running all this air, 17,000. That's the hottest day in August, that's our peak. The problem is, on those days, they take plants around the state, they're called combined cycle plants. They take natural gas and convert it to electricity, and that's the electrons going through the wires that keep your lights on. Our combined cycle plants are operated as peaker plants. That means they're only making energy when we get to that max output. So they're averaging about 400 megawatts every year. Why is that important? Or every day. They could be producing 1,300 megawatts. 17 combined cycle natural gas plants could actually supply all the energy we need across the state on our peak day. The liberals and the Republicans who are ignorant like Jack, they want to say, let's all go to nuclear, or let's blame some third party like this PJM you've heard about. It's not about PJM. It is about the fact that we've invested all our tax dollars, all our resources into solar and wind. Both of those have the lowest capacity score you could have. What does that mean in plain terms? It means they only produce energy 20 or 30% of the time that they're running. It's way higher cost. Everywhere that wind and solar are plugged into the grid, you've seen a spike in energy costs, brownouts, and blackouts. I'm not going to let that happen. Now, my opponent, Jack, a couple of weeks ago tweeted from the PSE&G nuclear plant in Salem County saying, when I'm governor, I'm going to lower your energy costs by going nuclear. And I called them out and I said, all right, dummy, let me explain how this works. First of all, it takes 10 years to get a new nuclear reactor online. So telling people you're going to lower their energy costs by investing in nuclear is a complete and utter lie. I said, however, let me remind you, 10 years ago on the radio, I wrote an article, met with PSE&G, went to that nuclear plant, and I called on the legislature, Jack was a part of then, to greenlight 2 nuclear projects that they were in the process of getting approved for by the federal government. PSE&G ended up getting that federal approval for that, but it got blocked and stopped by the governor, not just Chris Christie, but then Phil Murphy. So if they'd listened to me 10 years ago, we would have greenlit those plants, they'd be opening next year. Now, this is a 2036 project. So the only way out of this is we have to start producing energy with our combined cycle plants, get them from 400 megawatts up to 1,300. That can be done. It's going to take about 18 months because you've got a lot of other regulations that have to be undone to do it. We should be, within 18 months, energy independent, no longer buying our electricity from West Virginia and Ohio and Pennsylvania. What's interesting is all these left-wing radicals who are driving the Tesla are charging that Tesla on electrons that are being produced by coal mining plants in the Midwest. So it is a complete hypocrisy, almost a joke. But we can do it. I'm also going to tap into methane. We've got landfills up and down the state of New Jersey. That methane can produce electricity, but you got to tap into it. PSE&G has a plan. This governor's been slowing the roll on that plan. I'm going to greenlight it on day one. And yeah, we're going to build more nuclear. But back to your original plan, we're going to sue any of those wind companies that laid one ground of pipe, dug up 1 inch of earth on the Jersey Shore. I'm going to aggressively go after them. We're going to hire a smart, pro-energy, actual energy, fossil fuel energy, natural gas, methane, nuclear attorney general, and we're going to go after them hard. If we have to sue the EPA to do it, if I have to sue the Trump administration, we'll do that too. But we will stop those windmills. It is a disaster for marine life, our Jersey Shore population in terms of our human condition. You know, within a mile of these things, people develop migraines and other serious health issues. It's
I'd like
amazing.
to know how do you even get rid of them? That's even a
Well, you have to
worse
stop them from being
situation.
built. They're not built
No,
yet.
but I mean.
You have to stop them
you
from
have
being
all
built.
that to deal with if you do
Yeah,
it.
but we're gonna stop them. I'm the only one that will stop them because Jack Chittarelli is owned by a lobbying firm called Princeton Public Affairs. Princeton Public Affairs has been with him his entire career, fueled and funneled money to him. Guess who they represent? A wind company called Vineyard. So he is owned by a lobbying firm that makes money off of wind power. So I am the only candidate in the race because the Democrats want to double down on wind and solar. Democrats want to double down on the electric vehicle mandate. Democrats are going to drive trucking businesses out of the state. They're going to drive our transportation costs through the roof. The electric bus for NJ Transit costs almost $3.5 million. Diesel bus, $800,000. The Democrats are tripling the cost of everything. It will be unsustainable, and we're already losing $3.5 billion in adjusted gross income every single year. So I'm running because the woke Democrats are not a solution, but the weak Republicans who have let them run roughshod over our rights, our medical freedom, our religious freedom, our economic freedom, they're just as bad. Chittarelli is just as bad as any of the 6 Democrats running. It is that simple. Yes, ma'am.
So, my French horn. Good luck, Bill.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
I work in the casino industry in Atlantic City.
Yep. Oh, good.
So we have Atlantic City just received $3 million from the state to remove, make sure nobody's smoking on the boardwalk. It's wide open air. However, I also belong to a group called CEASE. They for casino employees against smoking effects.
Yeah.
And people come inside the casino floor and blow smoke straight up in my face all they want,
Yeah.
but you can't smoke outdoor on the boardwalk because there's complaints. People have complained. So I want to know, where do you stand on smoking on the casino
Well,
floor?
I am not an anti-smoker. I don't smoke. I did smoke. I smoked in the Marines. We would put the cigarette out
I'm
and
a
then we would
smoker
run
as
5
well.
miles and come back, and then I'd relight it. I mean, so, and I'm still here and fine. We overblow a lot of things. However, it's a very real thing to say that if I can't smoke in this hotel lobby, and I can't smoke in the pizza place, and I can't smoke in the bar, and I can't smoke in the airport, why can I smoke in a casino? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I am all fine with getting rid of the smoking. However, yes, you should be able to smoke on the boardwalk. It's ridiculous. It's open air. I'm a cigar smoker every once in a while. And I could understand if you said no cigar smoking. Because Jody, my wife, is not thrilled actually about the cigar smoking. We have to make sure the windows are shut when I'm out on the deck. It stinks and it still comes in no matter where I am. But that's putting out a lot of smoke. But your cigarette, not really. However, here's how I look at Atlantic City. This is the number one problem. The Casino Redevelopment Authority is the problem. And I would like to gut that authority and change the rule. If I can do it by executive order, I will, and I think I can. Change the rule that says you have to have a 300-person casino hotel in order to have a gaming license. What they did in Las Vegas and what they've now done in Pennsylvania and other places is they've lowered the requirement of what constitutes someone who can apply for and get a gaming license. The reason Vegas works in the middle of a desert without any of the attractions that we have is every mom and pop shop partakes in the gaming revenue. This idea that only a big casino can take in gaming revenue is absolutely absurd. Atlantic City should be a destination. I think if you didn't have smoking in the casinos, but allowed drinking and smoking, you should be able to walk down the boardwalk with a beer and a cigarette. I have no problem with that. Why not? Maybe not on the beach because people act ridiculous and they put the butts out, and I get that. But reasonable accommodation for reasonable people to smoke and have a beer on the boardwalk is a good idea. But I want every bar and restaurant that has a liquor license in Atlantic City to be able to apply for a gaming license and have slot machines and electronic poker. There is no reason why they can't. Vegas does that. You get off the airport in Vegas, every store you go to has a slot machine or a video poker game. And what does that mean? That means the mom and pop shop stays in business because they partake in some of the gaming revenue, and that's what we haven't done. We're going to lose another 2 or 3 casinos. It's bad in Atlantic City. The crime is bad. There's no destination availability. You can't fly into Pomona, I'm aging myself, Atlantic City International, and get any reasonable accommodation for transportation to get to Atlantic City. I'm going to get on a bus, I'm going to take an Uber, it's expensive, it's 35 minutes. It's a mess. There ought to be a light rail that goes from the airport to the convention center. We should be advertising Atlantic City, and one of the first things I'm going to do as governor, I met with the owners of the Monmouth Executive Airport. So it's Wall, New Jersey, maybe an hour away. They have a longer runway than LaGuardia. People don't realize this. We fought the county government to keep this airport private and won. Now that it's private, I said to the owner, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Allegiant and Republic and Breezes and all these local carriers and say, let's bring you into these smaller airports. I'd like to see Pomona and Atlantic City International operating on a regular basis. Why do I have to drive to Philly or Newark, sit for 3 hours when I just want to catch a flight to Charleston or Pittsburgh? It should be done simply. That will change the entire makeup of Atlantic City. And where the state can come in. The state made a colossal error taking over Atlantic City, and they did that when Don Guardian had cut the budget, but Sweeney and Christie were hell-bent on taking over the city, and they made it worse. So I'm with you on the clean air in the casinos. I'm also with you that we ought to be able to smoke outside of the boardwalk. There has to be balance. Mm-hmm. I've met with George Goldhoff, who owns the Hard Rock. I don't know where you work, but he is a reasonable guy. The casinos want to work with government. They understand that opening it up to smaller shops is not going to cut into their business. It's actually going to expand their business. Because right now, you don't leave the casino for anything. People are afraid, and you're getting it to a point where you're losing a lot of the conventions. You're losing a lot of the opportunity. The taxes are too high. The food availability, the parking, the streets, all of it. We don't have a destination, and we have to get a destination. This is not River Casino on the Delaware. It's a beach destination with a city around it. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so a couple things I wanted to say. First of all, my name's Anthony. I grew up here in Cape May Courthouse.
Okay.
I'm 53 years old. I wasn't sure how old you said.
56.
56. Okay, great. Quickly, I want to say about the airport idea in Atlantic City. I've lived here all my life. I'm really happy with the airport. And the fact that it's not so overdeveloped and over everything the way most other places are, it's what makes that airport so nice for those of us who live down there. But I understand what you're saying about getting a rail to get closer.
By the way, I'm not talking about making it Newark. I'm saying regional carriers, the smaller airplanes, that the only reason it's international is they fly to the Bahamas once in a while.
Right.
So it's not really an international airport.
Right. That's kind of my point.
Right. It should be a regional hub. It should
But
be
they do
regional.
need a high-speed
And-
rail to get between.
You need a high-speed rail
You do,
because
you do,
you could. I envision.
Well, back
that
in the
this-
day, there was trolleys. You could go to Atlantic City.
Of
from
course,
here to
can't do it
here.
now.
You can't go anywhere.
But it will also be a potential commuter area for pilots. We don't attract people who are earning those high wages any longer. Remember, Murphy tried to put a homeless encampment with illegals
Yes.
right outside the gate. Remember that?
Yes.
What I worry more about is the high density housing if Chitterelli or the Democrats hold office, because they have never spoken out against it. And the high density housing will kill the character of these towns faster than anything.
Let me move on to my other things. That was just a quick bit I wanted to mention about the airport. Because I really am opposed to overdevelopment when it's unnecessary. But moving on. I admire the fact that you also have not taken the vax. Felt like many Americans were, we were kind of like intimidated. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I remember say no to drugs, say no to peer pressure. And yet, everyone in my family and all of my peers, they fell victim to peer pressure and they said yes to those drugs.
Yep.
I'm so glad that I didn't, and I was going to ask you if you did, and the fact that you said you did not,
Yeah.
you've already earned some respect from me right there.
Thank you.
I really appreciate what you said about that clip with your opinion about fast tracking the illegals, because that is a major issue for me. And the way you answered it and how you explained it was taken out of context, it meant a lot to me. Because I really had not paid that much attention thus far
I get it,
into
sure.
this election.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much one of the main things I wanted to ask you about and hear what you had to say, because I saw that clip.
Yeah.
and that concerned me. And lastly, I am a Christian, and that is important to me. And I know it's I'm curious. Are you willing to tell me what is your religious affiliation?
I love that you asked that question. I am being told I need to wrap up soon because I'm headed to a church in Cape May, and Jody and I have actually spent the last year every Sunday. We're Catholic. We go to our 8 o'clock Catholic Mass, and then I hit a Christian service, 10:30, 11 o'clock. We have talked to tens of thousands of Christians like us over the course of the past year because I am the only pro-life candidate in the race. I am the only candidate that has spoken to the communities of faith and said, I'm with you, I lead with my faith, because I don't see how you can govern this state without a moral compass grounded in something bigger than yourself. Who's your real boss when you think about it? And if you don't have a moral guideline, I don't see how you can be effective leading. I don't see how you can be an effective parent, to be quite honest, or a brother or a sister. So not only am I a Christian, but I'll go further, that one of the most egregious things that happened during COVID was the closure of our churches. And I mixed it up with our local Catholic bishop in the Trenton
The
Diocese.
liquor stores stayed open, but the churches were closed.
Churches were closed, Alcoholics Anonymous were closed, Narcotics Anonymous closed, but you have the local liquor store open. It was an absolute atrocity. So I will tell you this, that and I'll leave you with this thought because I know we have to go, but abortion comes up as an issue all the time. There are a lot of Christians that will not vote for a candidate who's pro-choice. Now, I'm pro-life. There are a lot of voters that won't vote for a pro-life candidate. Not because they don't agree, but because they're afraid that if you campaign as a pro-life candidate, you can't win. So I submit two things. Number one, Chris Christie ran and won twice as a pro-life candidate, defunding Planned Parenthood. Jack Chitterelli intends on funding Planned Parenthood. He said it publicly on the air in our last debate, or 2 debates ago. Here's how I'm going to approach the abortion issue. And I have been attacked by my opponent as supporting abortion up to birth. I have literally been working with the pro-life movement for 25 years. I am the MC every year at the New Jersey Right to Life banquet. So New Jersey Right to Life, National Right to Life both endorsed me. Not on a whim, because I've been doing it for 2 decades. They know where I stand. But why did they attack me? Because I went after the Republicans. And I said, you guys are laughable. They put this bill together with a 20-week ban. And I said, first of all, show me one Democrat that you're going to get to co-sponsor this so-called ban. I said, second of all, Chris Smith, who's arguably one of the most pro-life members of Congress, has a 15-week ban at the federal level. Why are none of you talking about that, but you're doing this? So a couple of these, I call them faux-lifers. They're frauds. They sign on to this bill so they can check a box, do a mailer to their donors, and say, look at me, look at me. I said, and none of you are going to save one life. None of you are going to move the faith community forward one iota. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. We have spent 3.5 years around this state visiting pregnancy resource centers. When you go to a pregnancy resource center, you find a couple things out. Number one, it's all volunteer and it's all private money. There's no public money whatsoever. Number two, they handle thousands and thousands of women. Number three, when a young woman who's pregnant sees the ultrasound, 9 out of 10 say, I want to have the baby. But there's no choice in New Jersey because the only choice is a taxpayer-funded Planned Parenthood abortion. So on 2 fronts I confront this. I went to South Jersey Women's Center. This is in Little Egg Harbor, Atlantic County. And I met with a woman who opened it. She opened it 3.5 years ago, came from Florida, opened her little pregnancy resource center across the parking lot from a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic. She said, when I opened the doors 3.5 years ago, they were open 4 days a week, 10 hours a day with a steady stream of customers. She said, we opened, we started praying on the sidewalk, handing out literature, getting women to come in and have at least an informed choice. 9 out of 10 chose to have the baby. That clinic now, with not one legislative action, with not one ban, nothing, they're now down to 2 hours a week from 40 hours a week. That's how you change things. That's how you change it. And you have to know the fiscal side. The fiscal side of that is, for every dollar invested in a pregnancy resource center, we save $2 to $8 on social services. So there are some big issues here. I'm the only one that has actually got an ability to articulate this because I'm not afraid of any issue. You know, the illegals you brought up. Do you know that illegals are using our hospitals? Talk about Burnett, Tomlin, Cape Memorial, whatever, Shore Memorial. They're going to the emergency room as their primary care physician. Guess who's getting the bill? Medicaid. Guess who's paying the bill? You. $6.2 billion. And we have veterans that can't get health care. We have people who are struggling and suffering with developmentally disabled adults, can't get health care, can't see a doctor. It's a crisis across the board. And what I think, and I said this the other day at a church, and I'll say it tonight, when you take God out of government, people replace God with government. And government will do you wrong. They'll lie to you about the submarine. They'll lie to you about the pile. They'll lie to you about the smoke inhalation. Oh, I see. You're telling me that every
That's okay.
other
It's
public
both
place is
sides.
bad,
It's Democrats
but
and
your
Republicans have
life,
screwed us
your
over.
life is not worth what? The pilot, the
Yeah.
flight attendant. It's disgusting to me.
Yeah.
And I say that not as an anti-smoker. I say that as a guy that thinks it ought to be fair. Just make
Yeah.
it fair. That's all. You're not asking for something that pie in the sky. You're not even asking to change the rules. The Republicans and Democrats are scared. You know why they take money from these guys? Because their lobbying firms are making money from these guys. That's why wind is hard to fight, because every candidate, both Bramnick, Chitterelli, and all 6 Democrats are taking money from special interests. I am the only one who is completely unattached. And I will tell you this, I'm running to change things because I didn't want this job. There was no plan to run for governor. I was very comfortable with my top-rated morning show, a show on that we were about to launch on Newsmax. All was good, and I was in the driver's seat advocating. But when I saw the Republican Party was going to nominate this Trump-hating charlatan owned by lobbyist Jack Chitterelli now for his 3rd run, I'm like, nope, not on my watch. We're not going to do it. So this. I'm not going to tell you this is the most important election in your lifetime. I can tell you this primary is the most important Republican primary that we've had in more than 30 years. So I hope I've earned your vote. If you have any other questions, our guys are here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. So thank you to me. Thank you. God bless you. We'll go for it. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you guys. Thank you.
My pleasure. You got my vote. You're gonna get my brother's vote.
I appreciate it.
At least a friend or two.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Great to see you. Thank you. Yes, fired up. We're ready to go. All right, we're gonna go record something on the boardwalk. It's a nice day. Yeah, let's do it. Can I get a picture? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Here. I would flag it. I would love to. Yeah. That's how it started. I would love to go speak to this group. By the way, you presented that better than anyone has. Because almost every time people attack smokers, attack smoking, you're just like, they can't smoke outside, so they're smoking inside. That's a problem. Oh my God. You know what that is? We call that common sense.
Yes.
We call it common sense. There you go. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, man. I love appreciate it. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Yeah, let's do it. You gotta get in it, right? Zach, will you take this?
Thank you, Bill. Good luck.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it. All right.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
bipartisan, like this is a group of people that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Yeah, I got you. Should be. What they did to you was criminal. Horrible. Made you like you were terrorists.
I don't speak and more about what happened. There's no Facebook post. We don't speak about nothing that happened on the 6th because we're afraid. Because the telephone company that sent our location. We have family members that the FBI comes to the house.
I did come
We can't speak about what happened.
A million-person peaceful march.
There was a senator, it was right before the big election, in November.
That they went to the Senate.
Well, when I'm governor, I hope you will visit me and tell me what you saw, because I wanna undo the wrongs that happened.
Small.
I get it. Well, yes, you will. Don't say anything yet.
Definitely,
Wait till I win. Don't say anything right now. But Trump can't help you either if Murphy is still in charge. I tell people that, I'm like, it's great that Trump's in charge, he saved the country, thank God.
Nobody's telling
But
you.
he can't save New Jersey.
Nobody's
Pretty good
saying.
job.
No, I know.
Very good,
Because
very
nobody
good.
cares. It wasn't enough. I know. But I know the truth. I'm sure I don't know all the details. But I want to know the details because I believe a lot of people should be reinstated for the pain and suffering that they went through for politics, not for public safety. Politics. That's right. I'm with you.